So it's been a while since we've covered a story about Donald Trump, but I think this one becomes very interesting and could cause problems for Trump very, very quickly. And we'll get into why that is in a moment. But of course, since Trump has left office, it's been very easy, shall we say, to ignore him. Like I say, he's no longer technically the most powerful man on the planet. And of course, there are still supporters of Trump. I think it's something between about 30 to 40% of Republican Party members still support Trump. So that is a very clear indication, and we have seen a lot of interesting information as to whether Trump will run or not in 2024, or even make a bid for the obviously the Republican nomination, which will be in, I think, 2023, I think, is when we will start to see action around that. He hasn't said either way, and he's been very coy about it. But to be honest, I wouldn't say it's not a dumb move to put money on him running, because I think he's going to. And again, that could again lead to another very interesting, shall we say, presidential race. But yeah. But needless to say, this case in Scotland, I think, could cause some very big problems for Donald Trump, because, like I say, there's a lot of, shall we say, interesting questions to be asked about where has all this wealth come from? Why on earth did the Scottish government deny this request in the first place? And what's really going on behind all this? So we'll get into that in a bit. But before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So, on with this. So this comes from The Guardian, and the title is Scottish Judge Permits Legal Case Over Trump's Golf Course Spending. The global campaign group Avaz has been allowed to take legal action over the Scottish Government's refusal to investigate a source of Donald Trump's wealth. A Scottish judge has granted the group permission to challenge a decision by ministers to reject calls for an unexplained wealth order, or a UWO, into how Trump has raised the hundreds of millions of pounds spent on his two Scottish golf courses near Aberdeen and Turnberry. Known as the McMafia orders, they gave the Scottish prosecutors and courts the legal power to investigate how people, such as senior figures in organised crime, came by the money used to buy homes, cars, yachts and other assets. The court's decision is the latest blow for Trump and his family, who are currently under numerous investigations by prosecutors both in the US and the president's former tax affairs and finances. The Trump organizations robustly rejects allegations from that the former president used unlawful sources to finance his golf courses in Scotland. His son Eric Trump said that the family used its own money to do so. But however, the attention has focused on whether Trump borrowed the money from Deutsche Bank or from unknown overseas backers, including Russian sources. So far, there have been no proof of any illicit funding of Trump's business. Avaz has crowdsourced the campaign group, and it took the case after the Scottish ministers rejected the calls of Patrick Harvey, the Scottish Greens co-leader, and other SMPs for an investigation into how Trump bought and both funded the courses. Hasma Youssef, the then Justice Secretary, told Harvey that the decision to pursue the order was solely a matter for the Lord Advocate of Scotland's chief prosecutor, whose decisions have to be free of political interference. After Harvey challenged that, the government administrators and the ministers then responsibly requested to a McMafia order investigation. Even so, the Scottish National Party and the Conservatives rejected a Holyrood motion from the Greens, backed by Labour and the Liberal Democrats, calling for this early this year by 89 votes to 32. Before the vote, Eric Trump said, "Patrick Harvey is nothing more than a national embarrassment, with his pathetic antics, and they only serve himself and his political agenda." In a ruling seen on Wednesday by the court in session, Scottish Civil Court Lord Sandstone said that he believed the campaign group had real prospects of success and that there was a sensible legal argument that had to be used and matters raised by the petition. Nick Flynn, the legal director of Avaaz, said that armed with a proper understanding of the law, we hope ministers agree that Trump's purchases demand the transparency that only a unsolicited wealth order can bring, and Scotland's reputation for upholding the rule of law and combating money laundering depends on it. However, he said, I'm glad that we are a step away from finally getting some clarity over why Trump's business dealings in Scotland have not been investigated. It should have never have even gotten to the stage of a legal challenge from an NGO. For the Scottish Government to confirm or even deny that, they will even seek a McMafia order. Trump's critics believe that there are significant questions about how the finance of the original purchases of both Maine, of North Aberdeen in 2008, and the conversion of what was then a small coastal country estate into an 18-hole championship golf course with a boutique hotel. This was then followed by Trump's purchase then of the far larger Turnberry Golf Resort and its 5-star hotel in 2014. Trump spends at least tens of millions of pounds upgrading the hotel, adding a new ballroom and a redesign of both the golf courses. Overall, the Trump project is estimated to have cost in excess of £120 million. Recent accounts show that the Turnberry business at least owes Trump £114 million and the Aberdeenshire estate £44 million. Sanderson allowed the RV application to proceed even though it was technically time-barred, and also decided that a future judicial review could investigate Trump's finances, not just the dry technical question of whether ministers can even order a UWO inquiry. And after, of course, rejecting the government's protest, the petition was filed too late, and the judge ruled that there was a very clear matters for public importance raised by the campaign group. The question comes to whether the petition raised matters such as the life and substance public importance as to the renders the interests of justice and to allow it to proceed out of time, Sanderson said. So again, I think this is going to be very, very politically interesting, because obviously if this does go ahead, then where did Trump get all this money? Where did all this unexplained wealth come from? That is part of the investigation. I think that definitely deserves to be looked at. The other thing that should definitely be interested is why on earth did the SNP and indeed the Conservatives block this motion? Like I say, it's not, shall we say, the first time that the SNP have, shall we say, overruled shall we say, someone in the people of Scotland. Indeed, the Aberdeen golf course, the local Conservative council back there at the time refused Trump's obviously order. They said that they didn't want it. They said that this golf course would be unnecessary for the people of Aberdeen. And of course, at the time, the SNP then overturned that decision regardless of their meetings. And of course, this will definitely raise some very interesting questions, I think, among, shall we say, SNP supporters as to, is their party really as liberal as they make out to be? But again, we'll have to see. So, with all that said, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all next time.